Welcome back to DSR. We're going to return to Crooked Moon. Yes, I know it's been a while. People keep asking for the species. I have a player who decided to play one in one of my campaigns, so I need to cover these. And Crooked Moon is frankly pretty cool. So we're going to put this in the Crooked Moon playlist and the species playlist, and I'm going to cover all 13 species in this. I wonder if the 13 is the number they came up with specifically, because it's like an unlucky number in like Western European and Western Hemisphere cultures. So the setting of Crooked Moon is set in a demi-plane called Druskenwald, something like that. And it used to be like a domain of delight in the Feywild, but it has fallen. There was this queen who ruled Duskenwald named the queen named Kellen. She was the Green Queen, and originally this realm was a realm of like life, the cycle of life and rebirth. There was a lot of theming of like growth and plant life and abundance and things like that. But she was neither good nor evil. So there was also like, you die. It's the full cycle of life. You die and there's rebirth and things like that. And then some character named Philip arrived, and due to some events lost in history and lost in, there's some sort of something supernatural going on, because no one remembers, not even the Kellen, the queen, or Philip remember what caused this, what happened. And now Kellen has become the fallen crooked queen, and she has retreated to a small portion in the map you can see there called Wickermore Hollow. And it's that realm right in the center of the Crooked Moon demiplane. And Philip and his Crescent Court rule the majority. The Crooked Queen, it says here, in this weakened state, she lingers nearly dormant as she waits to reclaim her domain. Her bitterness festers, and she whispers the words of the old ways to those who will listen. Many of the monsters and creatures not shaped by the nature of their province have been made bent and crooked by the hateful spite of the Crooked Queen. So, two of the excellent things about this book are the art and the lore. And they have done it again with the description of the setting and the species, which is why I thought it was important to just kind of highlight a little bit high level what's going on with the setting, because I'm also going to talk about the regions, each of these regions with each of the species, because each species is tied to one of these regions. Like they primarily come from that sub-region of this domain. So it's a very interesting place with lots and lots of lore, right? So let's get into it. And I'm going to keep the species on the left and the sub-region that they're from within this domain of dread, I guess it is, called Crooked Moon. So we can see both, because every species is tied to one of these sub-regions, and I feel it was important to kind of show both. I'm not going to go in detail over these sub-regions because this is not meant as a gazetteer for the area, but I just wanted to briefly show that all this information is there. If you're going to use one of these species or run this campaign, you might want to understand this stuff and just know that it's all there for you. They've got a wealth of information and resources. So we have the Ashborn. Ashborn are an imp-like species native to Chernobos, typically coalescing from the sulfuric ash of the province's hellfire and brimstone volcanoes. Infused with the fiendish power of the hells, this folk has managed to survive and even prosper in the barrens and badlands of the province through guile, boldness, and industriousness. Said to be favored by fortune itself, Ashborn count on luck to twist the balance in the most dire of situations. Their short stature ranges from slight to stout, but this makes them no less dangerous, for each Ashborn has a venomous tail resembling a scorpion's, always ready to strike. They sport horns and skin tones in varying shades of red and gray that reflect their devilish origin, and they typically live 100 years. They're small only. Their creature type is Fiend, so this is I think the first time we have a Fiend creature type. And they have a walking speed of 30 feet, which is normal. Then they have several traits. Ashen Legacy, the minor illusion cantrip. Additionally, starting at level 3, you always have the Charm Person spell prepared. And at level 5, you have Invisibility. And you have all the standard boilerplate with these. You can cast them once per long rest. You can choose any ability score. You have them prepared so you can cast them with other spell slots you have. Then they have a dark vision range of 60 feet. Fiendish Fortune. When you're hit with an attack roll that isn't a critical hit, you can take a reaction to magically cause the attack to miss, and a creature of your choice within 5 feet of you takes force damage equal to your proficiency bonus. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. And then finally, Scorpion Sting. You have a tail stinger, and you can use Tailswinger you can use to make unarmed strikes using your strength or dexterity, your choice, for attack and damage rolls. On a hit, you deal 1d4 piercing damage, and you can deal an extra 1d6 poison damage. You can deal the extra poison damage. I'm going to insert that word poison because this is referring to the poison damage. This extra poison damage a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain 1 expended use when you finish a short rest, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. When you reach character level 10, this extra damage increases to 2d6. And if you're not aware, my power ranking bands are very wide for species because I'm intentionally trying not to encourage people to use their species for optimization. I don't think it has a massive impact on your character build. They can have impactful stuff, but I think it's better to choose your species based on the roleplay identity of your character than it is to choose it for optimization reasons. It is, remember, you need good enough mechanics and good enough roleplay to have fun. And so this is me doing my part to try to like lean into making sure that we have some room for a little more roleplay. So I'm going to say this one's an A, which, and again, almost everything is an A. Everything's either an A, an S because they're significantly more powerful than others, or they're an S1 and I've got to ban them from my games because they're dramatically more powerful. Although I've only banned a couple, I think they were just way out there. This one's pretty good. I would say it's like an A plus. It's got minor illusion, charm person, invisibility, which are great spells to have. I mean, charm person's okay, invisibility is good, minor illusion is great. The fiendish fortune is kind of minor. You can't use it on a critical hit, so that's the main thing you'd want to use it on, since you only have this as a short once per short or long rest. So you may be using this twice a day on average. And you have to use it against a regular hit. So you're, not blocking a large amount of damage. Then you get to like reflect damage. You don't have to if there's no good, enemy within 5 feet of you, but you can, if there's an enemy within 5 feet, just deal automatic force damage to them equal to your proficiency bonus, which is pretty minor. So that's a kind of a minor feature. And then your scorpion sting is okay. Like you're not going to want to use that as your attack unless you have the poison charges, and you get proficiency bonus number of poison charges. Those charges are enough to make this something you might use, but it still shouldn't be your main attack. Like it's just not enough damage to justify not using like a magical weapon, for example, or things like that. So this is okay. And with those spells and everything, I think it's an A. And then we have Chernobos with some great art. Every one of these regional areas have lots of information, some provincial folklore, noteworthy folk. I'm not going to and I haven't read this in detail, so I just want you to know it's there. They have local legends and stories, and then several adventure hooks, which is excellent for people like me. I love having these adventure hooks to give me ideas when I need to create a one-shot or a side quest. So I leverage these. Then we have the Azureborn. Azureborn are harpy-like species native to Astromar that I've got up on the right, often materializing from the bright blue night sky filled with twinkling stars and winds of arcane power, bearing a connection to the ether that courses through the air and land of the province. They are inherently prescient folk that can divine the future by looking to the cosmos. They've built a society of magical wonder through their grand vision, endless curiosity, and dedication to study. Sprouting feathers across their entire body and wings attached to each of their arms, this diverse folk can resemble all manner of avian creatures, from raptors with earthly tones to tropical birds of vibrant and colorful plumage. They typically live 100 years, although many of the wisest among them have lived up to 400 years. They're humanoid, medium-size, 30-foot walking speed, but kind of buried in there without even being called out in the traits is a fly speed equal to your walking speed. And this has no qualifiers, so you can wear heavy armor while flying, which automatically makes this thing like S tier compared to all the other flying species in the game. But that's not it. You have other features. So you've got Azure Legacy, which is you've got the guidance cantrip and the augury spell prepared and all the same boilerplate for those. Then you have Dark Vision 60 feet, which is most everybody has it, but not everyone. Then you have two unique features, which is Glimpse Fate. When you roll initiative, if you aren't surprised, you can choose a number of creatures you can see equal to your proficiency bonus. The targets have advantage on their initiative rolls. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. Glimpse of Fate is an interesting one. I would say that's decently powerful, except weapons of warning are a thing. They're an uncommon item in the game. Depending on how you award magic items, it's very common that your party gets one. A lot of adventurers say that they can just choose, if they're starting at a higher level, choose an uncommon magic item to start with. If you use magic item crafting, like I do, that's one of the first things people will craft. If you let them choose magic items, if you're creating, if you're just doing a one shot or creating your own adventure and you're starting at a higher level, uh, that's one of the first picks that most player characters take, and that kind of obviates this feature. So I would say it's not a very powerful feature because of that. Then we have Winds of Magic. As a bonus action, you can take the dash action and increase your fly speed by 10 until the end of your turn. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So you're dashing as the bonus action, which is doubling your movement speed, and increasing your fly speed by 10. So if you're using your fly speed with this, then you have a fly speed of 40, and you double that with your dash. And yes, you apply, the dash action specifically says you apply modifiers to the movement speed first, then you double it with the dash. So yeah, unless assuming you have nothing else that increases your movement speed, that's using your bonus action. You are now flying 80 feet for that turn, on top of being able to wear heavy armor with no restriction. So this is going to be another S tier species. And there you can see on the right is their region or their sub-region called Astromar. Then we have the Bogborn, and they are from Zulrog. Bogborn are a troll-like species native to Zulrog, usually rising from the still, dark waters of the swampy province. From the moment of rebirth, they have a symbiotic relationship with flora and fauna of the wild, and often treacherous mire. Their ability to survive is further enhanced by the natural regenerative biology found in the trolls. Towering over most, these hardy folk can face any trial of nature, and they often utilize their athleticism in pursuits of hunting and survival. Bearing prominent noses and tusks, these tough hides are generally shades of green or blue. Bogborn typically live 100 years before moving on to the spirit world. And these come across to me as very much as the trolls from World of Warcraft, which kind of have that jungle, tribal, shamanistic kind of flavor to them, which is cool, right? We don't have really that kind of idea yet in D&D, so ain't mad at it. And the art is fantastic, as is all the art in this book. So I love that. And we got something interesting here. Their creature type is giant. So this is the first giant creature type of all of these playable species. They're still medium, though, even though it says they're 7 to 8 feet tall. They have a standard movement speed, and they have a few features. Bog bulk. You have advantage on any ability check you make to end the grappled condition. You also count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity. It's interesting they don't have advantage on the saving throw to avoid the grappled condition. I don't know. They have a 60-foot dark vision, and then 3 traits. Guiding Bond. As a bonus action, you can magically place a mark on a creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself. The mark lasts for 1 minute and takes the form of an ephemeral plants, moss, fungus, or swamp animals that only you can see. For the duration, you can add 1d4 to ability checks and attack rolls you make against the marked creature. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So this is kind of powerful. It is like Bless, only for yourself, but it affects ability checks and attack rolls instead of saving throws and attack rolls, which means this is something you can use in non-combat situations. Social situations. You can't really use it in an exploration situation, because kind of the difference between exploration and social is that exploration do not have NPCs and social does have NPCs, and otherwise they're basically the same kind of thing. So you can use this in a social encounter against a creature that you're trying to persuade or influence, and there's no indication that you've done this. You're not casting a spell; they can't see anything, and it doesn't say you describe it in any way as you taking an action and like doing something, right? It's just a bonus action that occurs. So this should work fine in a social encounter without tipping anybody off that you're doing anything. And then you have plus 1d4 in all of your ability checks against them, like persuasion, deception, intimidation, insight, right? Performance. Of course, the performance is only going to work against one creature, so not an audience, and it's a buff on you, but it's kind of a debuff on the target, right? It only works against one target. And in combat, of course, a plus 1d4 on your attack rolls is very nice. A lot of the times you miss by 1 or 2. And this does stack with Bless. So if somebody in the party puts Bless on you and you use this, you're rolling a plus 2d4 on every ability check or every attack roll in combat, which is pretty good. You can only do this a proficiency bonus number of times per day, but that's still quite strong. Then we have Keen Senses, which gives you proficiency in the perception or survival skill, which is cool. And then Regeneration. As a bonus action, you can expend one of your hit dice, roll the die, and regain a number of hit points equal to the number rolled plus your Constitution modifier. If you take acid or fire damage, this trait doesn't function until the end of your next turn. And this regeneration is basically the same thing as the durable feat. So you're getting a feat for free. Now it's got the one restriction of if you take acid and fire damage, then it doesn't function for 1 turn. But most of the time, I mean, you don't, and it's not like you're trying to use this every single round anyway. So most of the time, you're going to be fine using this. And there's no limited use. The limited use is how many hit point dice you have left to keep using this. But if you combine this with like certain features from Grim Hollow, who have the ability to restore your hit point dice, this could be ridiculously overpowered. I'd have to think about that. I'm going to allow it for now, but I may have to disallow that combo if people abuse it. But I think this one is an S as a species. So definitely more powerful than the average because of the guiding bond and the regeneration. And they are from Zulrog, which is an interesting looking place. Again, I haven't read all the details, but it has all the same, it follows the same template that everything else does here. There are several pages of information that is great for you, if whether you're a player or a DM using this species. Then we have the Curseborn. Curseborn are a werewolf-like species native to Edwardia, often emerging from the dense, cursed fog that rolls across the province. Sharing a strong connection to the malediction called the Grey, which demands balance at the threat of certain doom, they have managed to build a civilization of advancement and progress, countered by rampant strife, pollution, and hunger. Covered head to toe with thick fur and bearing sharp teeth and claws, this lupine species evokes the hallmarks and appearance of werewolves, but with clearly humanoid physiology. If not brought to an early grave by the Grey, they typically live for up to 100 years, although technological advancements has led to certain individuals approaching 200 years old. And I have to say, Edwardia, is that like a pun or a reference to like Edward from the Twilight series? I know Edward was the vampire, Jacob was the werewolf, but is that like a double indirect reference there? I feel like this, especially their species and these regions, have lots of Easter egg references to pop culture. So if you know what they are, tell me what they are in the comments. I would love to know. These are humanoids. Seems like they should have been monstrosities. But that was, I guess, perhaps this was written before 5.5e came out. And those, all of the like werewolves and were-creatures all used the humanoid creature type. And then in 5.5, they updated them to monstrosities, which is what they should have been all the time. So they probably used humanoid to match that with these. You have a base movement speed of 35, which is not mentioned in your traits. So you just have this nice little bonus feature. And then you have 4 traits. Cursed Claws. You have claws you can use to make unarmed strikes, which deal 1d6 slashing damage on a hit. You can use either strength or dexterity for attack or damage rolls with your claws. When you hit a creature with your claws, you can curse the target until the start of your next turn. While cursed, the target emits wisps of fog and has disadvantage on all d20 tests. You can curse a creature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you gain ultimate uses when you finish a long rest. That is very, very, very strong feature because it's disadvantage on all d20 tests, and there's no saving throw. All you have to do is hit them with your claw, and then you decide, boom, they're cursed. And imposing disadvantage on their attack rolls is one thing. Like that'd be like an A-level species feature on its own. But causing disadvantage on their saving throws is a huge deal. Yeah, so keep that in mind, DMs, if you're going to allow this. They have a 60-foot dark vision range, which is standard for most. They have a feature called Gray Balance. When you fail a saving throw, you can take a reaction to succeed instead. When you do, you have disadvantage on all d20 tests until the end of your next turn. So you're significantly penalized for it. But if it was a really, really bad saving throw to fail, maybe that's the right call, right? A little bit of legendary resistance at a significant expense. And once you use this trait, you regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. You can only do that once per long rest. Pretty restrictive. Lupine Sense, you have proficiency in investigation, perception, or survival skills. You get one skill choice, which is okay. And yeah, the Cursed Claws is the really big deal here. I'm going to say this one is an S for now. But I'm going to have to revisit that after I see it in play. If people abuse that disadvantage, causing disadvantage on the saving throws to just wreck too many encounters, I'll have to make this like an S1, I guess. Yeah, and you can see the art for Edwardia is very cool, as is all of their art in this book. Really great stuff. Then we have the Deepborn. Deepborn are a fish-like species native to Ulmarsh, typically rising from the abyssal depths of the province's Black Sea, home to terrors beyond imagining known as the Hungry Ones. Immersed in a near-constant eldritch presence that emerges from the deep and descends from beyond the stars, these folk manage their state of paranoia by embracing and harnessing the uncanny and cosmic. While they are primarily Piscine in their anatomy, they can possess features found in a wide variety of sea creatures, including cephalopods and crustaceans. They typically live for 150 years, but certain members of occult orders have been known to live for 600 years. They are an aberration, which is not the first time we've seen an aberration creature type, right? The Kalishtar were changed to aberrations in the update for Eberron Forge of the Artificer. They are medium-sized, 30-foot walking speed, but also have a swim speed just built right in there, not listed as a trait. They are amphibious, so they can breathe air and water. They have a 60-foot dark vision, and then they have this feature called Eldritch Gibbering. Thanks to your Eldritch connection to the Hungry Ones, you speak deep speech. Also, as a magic action, you can gibber in that language, which just sounds funny. If a player was going to take the species and use that trait, I would for sure say you have to gibber, like gibber, roleplay gibbering. So beware, players. If you're going to take this one, be prepared to gibber. Each creature of your choice in a 30-foot emanation originating from you must succeed on a wisdom saving throw. The DC is based on your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma that you choose when you take the species. Or roll a d6 and consult the table below. And I think when it says or, what it means is they make the saving throw, and if they fail, you consult the table below, right? I think that's what they're saying. The effect lasts until the start of your next turn. Once a target fails its saving throw against this trait, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So once any creature fails, then you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. And it's a 30-foot emanation. So if you want to use it in an area effect, that's probably the best way to try it. And you're pretty likely that at least one of those creatures is going to fail if there's enough of targets in the area. But if you have the feel bad of it doesn't work on anyone, then you got to use it again. And you could use it again the next turn. It's still taking your magic action, but this is pretty good. So you have 3 possibilities of this feature. If you roll 1 to 2, the target has a target or targets have disadvantage on attack rolls. 3 to 4, the target's speed becomes 0. And 5 to 6, the targets can't take reactions. So the first 2 are very debilitating. The third one is good, just not nearly as powerful. So you have a 66% chance of having a really debilitating effect on the enemies that lasts until the start of your next turn. So for 1 round. Then the last feature you have is Endless Hunger. As a bonus action, you can embrace your connection to the Hungry Ones. Until the start of your next turn, you know the location of any creatures that aren't constructs or undead within 60 feet of yourself. And your attack rolls against those creatures can't have disadvantage. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So Endless Hunger is pretty minor, right? It's you just know their location and you can't have disadvantage, which will be okay sometimes because player characters don't often have disadvantage. They have a lot of ways to make sure they get advantage, and if they have disadvantage, they can use advantage to cancel that out. And you can only use this once per short or long rest. So really, the big feature here is Eldritch Gibbering, which is pretty good. And yeah, I'm going to give this one an S as well because of Eldritch Gibbering and then everything else they have going on. Although I'd say this is the least of these S's from this book. But that AoE potentially debilitating control effect from your species is pretty strong. And you're going to be able to use it like at least twice per day when you're taking at least 1 short rest. Then we have the Gnarlborn that are a tree-like species native to Ardengloom, usually sprouting up from the soil of the twisted dark forest. Their home is forever haunted by the souls of long-dead fae, which inhabit the enormous face-bearing trees known as elderwoods. These folk commune with these beings to receive primordial wisdom. Resembling gnarled trees with glowing faces hollowed into the bark, their individual pattern of branches, moss, and lichen can result in a wide diversity of appearance. Most Gnarlborn live for over 500 years, but those with the strongest connection to Elderwood have been said to live to be thousands of years old, which makes you wonder how long has the domain of Druskenvald been around? Like how long has it been corrupted into Druskenvald from what it was before under Queen Kellen? So the creature type is plant, which is cool. Medium size, 5 to 8 feet tall, and speed 30, which is standard. Deep roots, you have advantage on ability checks and saving throws against being moved against your will or to avoid the prone condition. So harder to knock you down, but you don't have any advantage on saving throws or ability checks against being grappled. Elderwood Whispers, you can draw on the memory of Elderwood spirits. When you finish a long rest, you gain proficiency with a skill tool or learn 1 language of your choice until you finish the next long rest. You have like 1 floating proficiency that you can use for any of those 3 things, skill, tool, or language. Grasping Branches is a bonus action. You can magically unleash the binding power of the Darkwood. Choose a larger, smaller creature within 30 feet of yourself. The creature must make a strength saving throw based on your constitution. On a failed save, the target has the restrain condition for 1 minute as branches appear and ensnare it. On a successful save, its speed is halved until the end of its next turn. So you get some sort of effect even if they save. which is cool. I think that's the first species we've seen where you have a save or suck feature, and then if they save against it, you still get some kind of minor effect. They've added that to a few spells in the 5.5e Player's Handbook, but first time on a species. A restraining creature repeats the save at the end of each of its turns, and the effect on itself on a success, the branches vanish when the condition ends. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So this is decent. It's kind of like the Entangle spell, except that it's a single target and no concentration, right? It's not a spell. And you could use it once per short or long rest. So you'd probably be using it twice per day on average, assuming you get like at least one short rest. So this is decent, and it's as a bonus action, which actually makes it a lot better, right? If this were an action, I would say this is not a very good feature because it's competing with everything else you want to do as your action. But you don't always have a good bonus action. So this is probably pretty good on anything but a monk, maybe a rogue. Root Sense. As a bonus action, you gain Tremor Sense with a range of 60 feet for 10 minutes. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. That's the same thing as what dwarves have now in 5.5, which is a pretty good feature. I don't know if it's a great feature, but it is pretty good. Then you have Towering Size, and you have advantage on any ability check you make to end the grapple condition, and you count as one size larger when you determine your carrying capacity. So there we go. Now we have advantage against ability checks to end the grapple condition, but not advantage on the saving throw to avoid it. So this is pretty good, and I'm going to give this one as well, make sure I check my notes, an S. Yeah, this one's got a lot of stuff going on. That Grasping Branches is pretty strong. You got the Floating Proficiency and the Tremor Sense. It's kind of, and you kind of have like a lot of features. Like the Tremor Sense is often viewed as like the dwarves' most powerful feature, and you have that plus 5 other things. Now, some of those other things are kind of minor, like Deep Roots and Towering Size are, kind of mid kind of features, but the rest of this is quite strong. So, but it might be like an S1 compared to the other ones in this book. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on where this one should be ranked. Then we have the Graveborn. Graveborn are a ghoul-like species native to Syndramas, shown on the right, typically rising from one of the countless graves that mark the frozen battlefields of the province. They were first created in a kingdom-wide ritual that twisted countless humans into new undead creatures that barely resembled who they once were. Graveborn now wage war endlessly and perpetuate a culture of martial prowess, relentlessness, and grave honor. Nice pun. These people are infused with the necrotic and draconic essence of the powerful draconite metal found throughout the province, which has given them a strange taste for spoiled flesh of any variety, so very ghoulish. Appearing as the corpses of twisted humanoids, Graveborn have powerful snouts and jaws with elongated teeth and tongues that assist in the devouring of flesh and bone. Their physiology is sturdy, as if magically designed to be perfected for war. If not killed in war, as befalls many of their kind, they can live up to 300 years before decaying away. Their creature type is undead. So this is our first undead, right? Even the Dampiers aren't undead. Medium-sized, 30-foot walking speed. They have a dark vision range of 60, and then they have 3 features. Devour corpse. You can eat spoiled and rotten food as if it were fresh. Additionally, if you spend 1 minute eating flesh of a corpse of a small or larger creature that isn't a construct, roll one of your hit point dice without expending it, even if you have none remaining. You regain a number of hit points equal to the number rolled, plus your constitution modifier, minimum of 1 hit point. Once you regain hit points using this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So this is really minor compared to the troll, what are they called? Bogborn, that is the troll species. Because you can only do this, like once per short rest, which is going to end up being like 2 per day on average, except that you don't expend the hit point die. Although I don't know that that's going to be a big deal. Like you're getting essentially 2 extra hit point dice per day, and you're going to have to spend a minute eating something, which, a lot of times you're killing stuff after combat and you can eat things. Anything but a construct counts too. So you could eat like a devil or an ooze or a fiend and still regain those hit points. Then you have Frozen Waste, which gives you resistance to cold damage, and then Infused Draconite. When you damage a creature, you can ignore any resistances it has, and it takes extra necrotic damage equal to your proficiency bonus. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So that Infused Draconite starts off like, wow, this is overpowered, and then ends with, you can do this on once per short or long rest, so maybe twice per day. Notice any damage. So this could be damage with a spell or a weapon attack or anything, right? Still, once per short or long rest is just not going to be very often, and this is going to be an A rank species from this book. Then we have the Harvestborn. Harvestborn are a scarecrow-like species native to Enoch, most often crafted with great care by Methuselah, the lord of the province. Infused with a vital green magic that surges through the immensely fertile land, they have a strong connection to the cycle of both harvest and life, death, and rebirth. They feed much of Druskenvald with crops they grow in a relatively peaceful society that puts a focus on community, family, and fellowship. So even though they look like scarecrows, they're like the super nice, friendly version of these scarecrows, I guess. As a constructed species resembling any manner of scarecrow, their bodies are comprised of a mixture of wood, metal, straw, and other implements. Their glowing-eyed heads might be made from a burlap sack or crop such as a pumpkin or turnip. A turnip-headed one sounds pretty funny. Staying true to the cycle, they generally live 100 years before accepting the next step of death and becoming reborn once more. These are a construct, which is not new, but it's cool still, being just not humanoid. And then they have a few features. They have the standard movement speed of 30. Culling, when you damage a bloodied creature, you can deal an extra 1d12 necrotic damage to it. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. That's pretty good. The ability to just deal an extra 1d12 damage whenever you cause any damage to a creature. Note that there's no limited uses per turn, so you can use any number of times per turn. So if you hit somebody with hit a group of creatures with a fireball, you could expend one use for each target and deal that extra 1d12 damage to every single one of the targets, assuming you have enough proficiency bonus uses. Or you can use this on attacks. And of course, it says when you damage a creature, you can deal an extra 1d12 necrotic damage to it, which should work with critical strikes. So if you land a critical hit, add the 1d12 or use this culling feature, and now you're going to be adding 2d12 instead of 1d12. So this is a decent feature. Then we have Gift of the Green. The name of this is a reference to the origin of this when it was like a demi-plane of delight in the Feywild before it fell, and that's kind of what the queen, she was known as anyway, the magic that suffused the area was called the green magic or something like that. So these are hearkening back to that. Gift of the Green, as a bonus action, you can touch the ground and choose a creature also touching the ground within 30 feet of yourself. That creature can expend and roll 1 hit point die, and it regains a number of hit point dice equal to the number rolled plus your proficiency bonus. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain 1 expended use when you finish a short rest, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So this is the same as the battle medic feature from the healer origin feat. It's the same, result in the amount of healing, but this is a bonus action for you, and you have a range of 30 feet, and then it's limited to proficiency bonus number of times per day plus once per short rest. So this is quite good. Healing an ally at 30 feet away as your bonus action, it's like on the order of a healing word, right? But it's not a spell casting, so you can cast a full spell with your action. That's also quite good. Then we have Jack-o'-lantern, the dancing light cantrips, and it has all the same boilerplate, and that's very minor. Dancing light's not a great cantrip, but if you have no other source of light and you're not concentrating on anything else, not bad. Then you have Scarecrow Nature. You don't require air, food, or drink, which is fine. And then you have Watchful Rest. You don't need to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep. Moreover, you can finish a long rest in 4 hours if you spend those hours in an inactive, motionless state during which you retain consciousness. So even though it's called Watchful Rest, which is similar to what the Warforged has, I think that's called, it's changed names a few times, Sentry's Rest and different things like that, Watchful Rest. Anyway, this is actually a copy of Trance from the elf species. So this is a good one, and I'm going to give it this one's going to be another S. It's really strong, but for different reasons than the other ones. So this one's very cool and thematic and flavorful for Crooked Moon especially, but I would think this would be cool to play just for the flavor in any campaign. Then we have the Plagueborn. Plagueborn are a rat-like species native to Bubonia, clearly a reference to the bubonic plague, typically coalescing in the pestilent haze that hangs over the province. They are deeply connected to the virulent and deadly plague that afflicts and shapes their society, which persists through cunning, ruthlessness, and the sheer will to live. They are the most adaptable species of Druskenvald, quickly discovering the means to survive even the harshest environments, which is what rats do, right? Appearing as large plague rats with humanoid physiology, their short fur ranges from grays and browns to various shades of green. They bear jagged teeth and claws that all carry a strain of plague to which they are immune but can prove deadly to others. Their nimble tails can vary greatly in length and thickness, often reflecting their family, clan, or guild. Plagueborn usually live no longer than 100 years. These are humanoid. Certainly this could have been a good opportunity to make a beast species. Although I guess Quickstone from Eberron has a beast species in it. They can be medium or small. You choose when you select the species. They have a 30-foot walking speed and a climbing speed equal to their walking speed. So they got kind of like a free walking or free trait there with the climbing speed. Then they have 4 traits. Born in Filth, you have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the poison condition or magical contagions. And that's decent. Note that there's no resistance to poison damage here. Then you have a 60-foot range dark vision and infected cunning. The plague you carry binds you to rats and imparts their cunning. You gain proficiency in deception or stealth. Like the buildup on this one is kind of like, ooh, there's going to be something interesting, cool. And then it's just, you get one skill. So I thought that was interesting. Then Plague Bearer, when you hit a creature with an attack roll, you can spread your magical contagion to the target. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw based on your Constitution modifier or become inflicted with your plague for 1 minute. While afflicted, the target has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks and takes 1d4 poison damage at the start of each of its turns. The target repeats the save at the end of each of its turns, ending the plague on itself on a success. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So the Plague Bearer feature is their, premier feature. So it's interesting that one is very limited. It's once per long rest. I don't think it's powerful enough to justify that. Like the Curseborn, the werewolf species, their curse is far more powerful than this thing, and they can do that proficiency bonus times per long rest, right? You have once per long rest. This only causes the disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. The Curseborn causes disadvantage on all 3 d20 tests, so attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws, which is what makes it a lot more powerful. And that 1d4 poison damage at the start of each of their turns does not compensate for that. That's not nearly as powerful as causing disadvantage on saving throws. So yeah, this one's interesting. And I'm going to give it's going to be a regular species. In fact, I don't even think it's a strong A. It's just a regular A compared to other things, the other species from other books. Relicborn. Relicborn are a skeleton-like species native to Calero, generally emerging from the numerous tombs and crypts that line the canyon walls of the province. They thrive in a culture of celebration and remembrance, which infuses the very essence of every member of the species. Dancing between the energy of a vivacious party and the serenity of peaceful reflection, this folk holds a deep appreciation for both the living and the dead. They appear as skeletons decorated with a wide array of vibrant colors, patterns, and styles, and their bones are encased in a translucent glowing substance that provides them with a similar mass and shape to other humanoid species, allowing them to comfortably wear clothing and armor. Some Relicborn can even grow hair from their skulls, which is often shaped into bombastic styles. Relicborn typically live for 250 years before losing their form and collapsing into a pile of bones. Interesting. These are clearly a reference to Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, cultural holiday for Mexican and type cultures. These are medium undead creature type, which is cool. And then they have a few traits. Dance of Death. As a bonus action, you can make a DC 15 Charisma, musical instrument, or performance check. If you succeed, the next attack roll you make before the end of your turn has advantage. If you succeed on the check by 5 or more, you can roll one of your hit point dice without expending it and gain temporary hit points equal to the number rolled. Wow, that's a big deal. That's like steady aim for the rogue without the downside of restricting your movement. Okay, it has no downside. It's just taking your bonus action, and if you succeed, now this one you don't just automatically get advantage. You have to succeed on the DC 15 Charisma check, but it's easy to build for that and end up with a character that can easily make that DC 15 Charisma check, particularly rogues. If you just take proficiency in the performance skill, which you get from this species, then your reliable talent applies to that, and just take like proficiency. Then you have proficiency on top of that. So at level 7, your proficiency bonus would be a 3. If you just have a +2 charisma modifier, then you're already at 15 and you're guaranteed to succeed. And this is better than your steady aim, and it has no limited uses. On top of that, you get a roll hit point die, and you gain temporary hit points equal to the number rolled, and the hit point die is not expended. That's every round, unlimited uses. Pretty strong. Then our next feature is Eternal Party. You don't need to sleep, and you can finish a long rest in 4 hours if you spend those hours enjoying revelry, such as telling stories or playing music. So you only get to finish your long rest in 4 hours if you are partying or telling stories or playing music. Otherwise, you have to take a normal long rest, which is interesting. Also, you're not. It doesn't have the clause that says you can't be put to sleep through magical means, and you're immune to magical sleep and things like that. It doesn't have that like the elf trait. So it's like half of the elf trait. Then we have the next feature, Moment of Remembrance. When another creature you can see within 30 feet of you fails a D20 test, you can take a reaction to let the target add 1d4 to the total, potentially causing it to succeed. Once this trait changes, a failed roll into a success, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So this is okay, right? You can use your reaction to add a 1d4, which is nice, using it as a reaction. But once you succeed, then you can't use it again to finish a short or long rest. So it's pretty limited use. So this is one of the more minor features they have, but that's okay because Dance of Death is super powerful. And then you have Soul of Revelry, which just gives you proficiency with a performance skill or with one kind of musical instrument. And of course, choose performance because skill proficiencies are more broadly applicable than any tool proficiency. And if you're performing with a musical instrument and you're proficient with performance or the musical instrument, then your proficiency bonus still applies. And then use something else, like maybe a background to get proficiency with your musical instrument if you really want it. But yeah, choose performance, far more broadly applicable. And this one's going to be an S because of that Dance of the Death. That is quite strong. You might say like it's only advantage on your first one and you use your bonus action in return. Sure. But Vex doesn't give you advantage until you hit. So you use this first, then you have advantage on the first attack, and then you hit, and now you have the Vex advantage chain going, and you have advantage from then on that target. So yeah, I think this is strong, especially for rogues. This is like built for rogues. This is pretty cool. I hope to actually see some of my games. I'm really tired of seeing elvish rogues with elven accuracy. I'd like to see some of these. Then we have the Silkborn, and just from the art alone, you can tell this is like Egyptian related. They've got the headdresses, they've got the scare beetle featuring, and these are insectoids, which is cool. I like it. I like the diversity of the culture that they're bringing in with this book, of representing kind of the idea of folk horror kind of stories from a variety of different cultures. The Silkborn are a spider-like species native to Nuraket, typically emerging from silken cocoons amidst thick webbing that fills miles of tunnels through the subterranean province. They have a deep kinship and connection to the bejeweled arachnids and insectoids that have assisted them in building the grandest civilization in Druskenvald. This folk also channels the great gems that fill the caverns of the province with light and power, bringing them ever closer to the gods that spared their kind from an ancient calamity. While this species has humanoid proportions, they have arachnid features, hardened carapace skin, numerous eyes and segmented limbs that grow from their backs, and mandibles that sprout from their mouths. They generally live for 250 years, but those at the higher echelons of their civilization have been known to live for nearly 800 years. These are humanoid, medium, 30-foot walking speed, but also a free climbing speed. And then they have 3 traits. Bejeweled Carapace. When you're hit with an attack, you can roll a reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your AC against that attack, potentially causing it to miss. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So this is pretty minor. Like you're going to maybe block one attack twice a day on average. Then they have Dark Vision with a range of 60 feet. They have 4 traits. The last one has got their mark down is incorrect, and they've marked the name of the feat, which is Spider Climb, as a spell, which they don't get, and it's not what it is. Then they have Silken Legacy, Thaumaturgy, Cantrip, Find Familiar, and Web. That's got all the same boilerplate as spell casting on species have, so that's pretty good. Getting Find Familiar, good. Thaumaturgy is a good cantrip, right? It automatically gives you, if you use it, advantage on intimidation checks. And then getting the Web spell. That is an S tier level 2 control spell. One of the best second level spells in the game, and that is awesome to add to your spell list for any spellcaster who doesn't have access to Web. So that is really good. Then they have the Spider Climb trait. You can climb difficult surfaces, including along ceilings, without needing an ability check while leaving your hands free. So this is like, I think this is basically like it has the Spider Climb like Dampier, which is one of the main features that people are going for when they take the Dampier. So it's got that Spider Climb plus better spellcasting. Like all the spellcasting feature that is really good. Find Familiar is a great spell. Web, a great spell. And I guess it makes sense that their Bejeweled Carapace is just a really weak feature because the rest of what they have going on is really strong. It also seems weird that they don't have a feature that like references these additional limbs they have, or I guess maybe that's the Spider Climb feature. Maybe a Bejeweled Carapace should have just been called something like with a name that describes you blocking the attack with one of your extra limbs instead of your Bejeweled Carapace suddenly increasing your AC as a reaction out of nowhere. I don't know. And the Silkborn are S tier. Then we have the Stoneborn, which are a gargoyle-like species. Reminds me very much of that I, Frankenstein movie or the Gargoyles animated cartoon from a few decades ago. So this is cool. I like it. Stoneborn are gargoyle-like species native to Full Sense. Oh, it's got a full sense. Okay, I pronounced it right the first time. Full sense. Usually meticulously carved by the lord of the province, Archbishop Danton Alexander Renault. Blessed by the divine power known as the Silver Path, these people can call upon the godliness that suffuses their construction. In a domain of darkness, they have looked to the light of their God to build a civilization that attempts to uphold what is good and lawful at all costs. Their stony skin matches the same hue and pattern as the stone they were carved from. While all of their kind have broad wings that carry their dense, heavy bodies, their biology can evoke a wide variety of creatures, including bats, fiends, dragons, birds, angels, dogs, and lizards, often combining features into a chimeric blend. They usually live for 300 years before crumbling into rubble. Their creature type is construct. They can be medium or small size, so you choose when you select a species. They have a walking speed of 30 and a fly speed equal to half your movement speed or half your walking speed, which is interesting. So if you only have the base 30, then you're going to have a flying speed of 15. I guess it makes sense. You're flying, but you're made out of stone, so you are really heavy. And I guess with this species, that really encourages you to look for ways to increase your movement speed, taking classes, subclasses that can increase your movement speed, taking feats that increase your movement speed, getting the long strider, the long strider spell, and maybe even the speedy feat would all be pretty good on this one to increase your like fly speed to at least 30. You'd have to get your walking speed to 60 though. I guess a monk, Stoneborn, would be pretty sweet, because monks can raise their movement speed. I mean, just by being monk, you raise your movement speed quite a bit. So they have a few features. Argent Gleam. As a bonus action, you can channel a mote of the Silver Path's light with your choice of one of the following options. So this is one feature, and it has a single use per long rest. And the one feature has two different options that you can use with it. So the first option is Path's Grace. You cast the Bless spell requiring no material components, which is, I would say, if you got to have the Bless spell prepared at least, and you could use it once per long rest and have the same boilerplate as the other typical thing we see for spell casting from species. This would have been a lot better. As it is, I think this is pretty minor. You just get you don't have the Bless spell prepared. You can't cast it with other spell slots. There's the material component is not costly, so that's not even that big of a deal. But yeah, you can cast Bless once per day, which is okay. Then you have Zealous Charge. You take the dash action, and this is a bonus action. So your bonus action casting Bless, which I guess makes it better, and then your bonus action taking the dash action for Zealous Charge. And then the first time you make an attack roll before the end of your turn, this turn, on a hit or miss, the target takes an extra 2d6 in radiant damage. You're going to deal damage regardless, right? You choose the action first, and then the next time you make an attack roll, whether you hit or miss, you're going to apply this extra 2d6 radiant damage, which is interesting. I guess kind of cool. Then you have Silver Bulwark. You can call upon the Silver Path to protect you. When you take bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, you can take a reaction to gain resistance to those 3 damage types until the start of your next turn. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. And this is kind of minor as well, because it doesn't say that the reaction gives you the resistance to the triggering damage, which is the language you would need for it to apply that way, which means you're going to take the full damage and then you have resistance after that. So it's only going to help you if you would take more bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage before the start of your next turn, which is most of the time not going to help you. Like, it's just a lot of the time you're going to take damage once and then you wouldn't take damage again anyway. Like, either they miss or they only have one attack or things like that, or maybe their next attack just is different damage type. So that's kind of mid. But also it's restricted to once per short or long rest, which means you're going to be doing it maybe twice per day on average. I bet you forget about it most of the time. Then finally, you have Watchful Senses, which gives you proficiency in an insight, perception, or survival skill. So I think this is a very cool and thematic species, but I'm going to give it only an A. And I think it's a solid A, right? You've got a flying speed. You've got that Argent Gleam bonus action to let you cast Bless as a bonus action. Like, the biggest downside of Bless is the fact that it's a full action to cast. You can cast Bless as a bonus action. You get one skill, and then you get that really minor resistance. And you can dash if you need to. So if you're don't have any other features to increase your movement speed and you really need to fly further, this alone gives you that dash, which would double your movement speed to 60, and then your fly speed would be 30. And remember, the way movement speeds work is you could fly 30 and then still have 30 feet of movement speed left over to walk. So you could fly 30 and then run 30, or run 30 and fly 30. Yeah. Whenever you take a foot of movement, it subtracts what's remaining from all of your movement speeds. So you can still do that. Yeah, this one's going to be an A. And finally, we have the Threadborn. Threadborn are a doll-like species native to Pico, most often built with love by Blinsky II, which, if you don't recognize that name, Blinsky is from Curse of Strahd. He is a toy maker character in one of the places. I won't say any more, but Blinsky is from Curse of Strahd. So that alone makes me love this one. All right, the master, toy maker, and lord of the province. In a land that is mostly fabricated and constructed to maximize the fun of all who live there, the essence of joy, thrill, and friendship are woven into a Threadborn's very nature. They cherish the bonds made between loved ones and always maintain a childlike wonder and whimsy no matter one's age. As living dolls, these folks are constructed with a variety of materials, including cloth, wood, metal, porcelain, stuffing, yarn, and anything else a toy might be made of. With the most varied body shapes of all Druskenvald species, each Threadborn represents a unique representation of fun. They usually live for 100 years before falling apart and needing to be rebuilt. They are a construct that can be medium or small. They have a 30-foot walking speed. And then you have a few traits. Ball jointed. You can move through a space as narrow as 1 foot wide as if it were difficult terrain, which is okay. That's going to be, I can think of I don't know, half dozen, maybe a dozen scenarios where that would have come up in an adventure. Then you have innocent mind. You have resistance to psychic damage, which is okay. Sown nature. You don't require air, food, or drink, which is also okay. That's going to come up kind of rare. Then you have soothing heart. So you get guidance, sanctuary, and calm emotions. Using all the same standard boilerplate for spells from species, which is pretty good. I like all three of those spells. Calm emotions removes or suppresses the charmed, it doesn't remove, it suppresses or prevents the charmed and frightened conditions, which is great. So that's why I rate that spell as a healing spell because of that. It can also be used to just like end combat encounters by making all the targets, just indifferent and no longer hostile. But you do have a buff. There's a buff to these spells, to the Calm Emotions spell buried in there, which is when you cast Calm Emotions, it can target creatures of any type, whereas the Calm Emotions spell, I think, is limited to beasts and humanoids. So a nice little buff there. And Guidance is the best cantrip in the game, right? The most often used, really great for basically everything outside of combat, which is good. So, and then the last feature is called You've Got a Friend. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself fails an ability check using a skill, you can take a reaction to cast Guidance on that creature, ignoring the spell's normal range. The spell can add the creature can add the spell's 1d4 to its ability check, potentially causing it to succeed. Then the spell ends. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So, a couple of interesting things here. The first one is, I don't know if they realized that Guidance was turned into a concentration. I mean, it was a concentration spell before, but it is a concentration spell, and so they haven't referenced that. Does it still require your concentration, even though this Guidance spell only really lasts for that brief moment for buffing that one thing? They didn't say, so rules as written, you should probably, rules as written would say that you still apply the concentration effect, which means if you're currently concentrating a spell, this will end it by using this feature. Frankly, the way I intend to run it, if somebody's playing this species, is I don't care. I will say that this use of Guidance does not break your concentration. So if you're concentrating on enhanceability and then you use Guidance to boost as a reaction, somebody failed anyway for a social encounter or a stealth check, I'm going to allow it because this also has resource usage. It's not infinite. You don't get this bonus, this ability to use Guidance as a reaction infinitely. You've got only proficiency bonus uses per long rest. So I think it just makes it a little too weak to strictly impose that concentration issue. Then the other thing is the name of this, right? You've Got a Friend. That's the song from Toy Story, right? So is this a reference to Toy Story because you're a toy? I think it is. I think this book is full of allusions to pop culture and references to pop culture, and I'm sure I missed most of them. So if you recognize some of these, or you're like a really deep into the lore of Crooked Moon and you figured it all out, I would love to hear what these references are. And this one is going to be another A. I think it's good. It's not like a weak A, but it is pretty good. But it is like all support features, which actually is frankly one of the roles I love to play most when I'm playing D&D as a player character myself. So I love the support role. But yeah, this one's going to be an A. All right, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching. Whew, that felt like a lot. Although this isn't one of my shortest videos, it just felt like it took more to create this. And there was a lot to go through. And this one makes me sad that the 3 campaigns I just launched, which I'll be running for like the next year plus, none of the parties of players chose Crooked Moon. That was one of the options. I put like 10 options for them all to vote on. Crooked Moon got a lot of votes, but it didn't win. And 2 of them are running Dragonlance. One of them is running Vecna, which I'm also just really thrilled to run those as well. I've been wanting to run those for a long time. So I just have a long list of campaigns I want to run now, and this is on that list. Dark Sun, if it comes out, if they do it, and this one are probably my 2 top picks for the campaigns I want to run next. Of course, in a year, they're probably going to release other campaign settings, and then I may have to add those to the list, which is why I run so many campaigns. And one of the reasons I just love D&D, right? Just all the flavor, all the lore, all the interesting stuff going on is super cool. So if you don't have enough D&D in your life, check the video description. You can find a link to join my Discord. It's a community of people who just love talking about D&D, and they're quite helpful. If you have questions on how to make a character or ideas on how to optimize a character or lore, there's all kinds of stuff. And if you love talking about D&D, you might be a good fit. And there's no paywall. You're welcome to join. I do have a Patreon for people who want to support that way, which I greatly appreciate, but there's nothing paywalled there either. It's just if you want to support, which I appreciate greatly. And if that doesn't work for you, that's totally cool. There are other ways to support if you want to. Liking, subscribing, just watching the videos, commenting, all of that helps. So thank you in any way that you choose to support. I appreciate it. Even, I mean, like I said, even just watching helps. So thank you for that. There is a link to the Google Drive that has this the Google Sheet I didn't show this time, but I show it most times, where I've ranked all these, and I did put all of these into that Google Sheet for the species tab. It just didn't feel like I was showing enough interesting information there to put that on the screen. I'd rather show you the art and the text from these both regions and these species. Just felt a lot more important. But yeah, the tab is there, and I've added all of these there to that one, so you can use it there for if that helps. But yeah, none of these are banned for my games. So if you want to use them in my games, go ahead. I reserve some of the, I start seeing some of these just all the time, or some of these things getting abused, and I may have to like block them or nerf them in some way. But for now, they're all usable as is. And remember, D&D is a game. It is for fun. The only point of it is to have fun with your friends. So please be cool when you play D&D. Don't ruin the fun for anyone else. Catch you next time.